I had them all long before I dialed up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up. I had them all long before I dialed up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up. I know the wall's closing in, but don't you dare give up now. Poe believed in me, pull up through some bucks down. Todd told the valet pull the truck round. Push the line up that we drew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed this? Then booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement. Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify. And name the best from my region, you gotta utter mine. Think of who really putting on, you never come to mind. Rapping like your Spotify, tap you rappers compromise. Yeah, no need to panic, just paint the canvas. If you can feel the static, you're too close, find your balance. Embed the revolution for they prohibition bandwidth. Blood trickle from the leaders he was planning. I had them all line before I dialed up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up. I had them all line before I dialed up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up. Boarded that flight to Amsterdam. When my accountant and minus my family found out, and didn't like it. You're not in the salon with Dale said, and I thought he was biased. Then I got a Venmo that said copy the finest. Before my foolishness settled in, recorded a whole tape before we got to Berlin. This close to giving up and now never again. Don't overlook the work and come expecting to win. In the end, my word, never put nothing over the squad. Got it right up under their nose and try the facade. Off the cliff with broken wings, I'm aware of the odds. Enough faith for us all, I'm the one for the job. Most days, catching sun rays, baby, look like the front page. Overthinking what they might say, have it your way. Yeah, the biggest threat is something they never seen. Dial it up, patch me into the screen. I had them all line before I dial up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up. I had them all line before I dial up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Luqman Nation. I am Jackie Luqman, and you are watching the most dangerous show on social media on the most dangerous platform on social media, Black Power Media. As you saw, my comrade Brewski Luqman, my little four-legged son back there, is going off to roam around, but he's happy that you joined us tonight, too. So listen, I'm so sorry about missing an episode of Imprint of Imperialism last week. But look, sometimes I just got to not do stuff, right? I've become a huge advocate for taking care of oneself in this struggle because, you know, I've had to experience what happens when life knocks you on your ass and you have no choice but to take care of yourself. So sometimes I'm not going to be as regular as I'd like to be with these shows sometimes. So I hope you all understand, and I hope you continue to stick with Luqman Nation because we ain't going nowhere, as you can see. But last Saturday afternoon, which was February 5th, I was out fighting imperialism in the streets, actually. And Brewski and I engaged in the No War with Russia rally with the Answer Coalition, the Black Alliance for Peace, my organization I belong to, Code Pink, Claudia Jones, School of Political Education, and a bunch of other anti-imperialist organizations and people out in front of the White House here in Washington, D.C. And I've got some pictures for you that are really kind of great, so you can see just the kind of stuff that, you know, we do here in Luqman Nation. And there's some photos from the rally and kind of the stuff that we do on Black Alliance for Peace too. So this is a photo of a Rafiki Morris, member of the All-African People's Revolutionary Party and a member of Black Alliance for Peace, speaking. And here we are, the Black Alliance for Peace contingent next to the Answer Coalition contingent. And I hope you can see my mouse arrow, because here I am all bundled up. And there Mr. Brewski Luqman is with his cute little red parka with his little red hood. And as you can see, yes, the dog is pretty much almost half as tall as I am. So we're out here in front of the White House. There it is, the White House, those people's house in the background. There's some more pictures. This is us before the event. And you can see Comrade Brewski saying hi to the camera, enjoying the chill weather in his little red coat with his little red hoodie. And this is us in front of the Black Alliance for Peace banner here. So we were out there for a couple of hours. It was a really great day, really great speakers. And you can find that information on the Black Alliance for Peace Twitter page. And you can find Black Alliance for Peace on @Blacks4Peace on Twitter. So those were some really good pictures of our day out being anti-imperialists in the streets, as we always are in real life, it back here in the Luqman manor. And this video of Rafiki Morris and his comments during the rally are really, really important. And I really want to share this with you. Whoops.
Wow.
Hold on.
Today.
Let me share it. Make sure.
Must be street time.
Make sure I share the audio.
No, keep going. Keep going.
There you go.
You just forced me to try to address some things that haven't been said. We are here because these fools back there are trying to go to war with Russia. And every time they try to go to war, we come out here. But I think it's time we begin to realize that this is not an isolated event. This is not nothing new. In fact, this is just the same old, same old. This country exists because somebody somewhere else came here, killed the Aboriginal inhabitants of the country, murdered them, slaughtered them, gave them smallpox, did all kinds of vile and malicious things. They used to scalp them. They had folks that they would send out to catch the Native American people, and they paid them by the head. And since they was too heavy to drag back to the sheriff's office, they would cut off a piece of their scalp and count the scalps when they took them back. That's the founding of this country. War! Black people in Africa, stolen from Africa. War! Dragged across the ocean. War! Enslaved for 500 years. War! This ain't nothing new. This country has not had a solid year without war since the time the Pilgrims landed. War! It's their modus operandi. That's how they operate. That's how they function. And this is just a continuation of the same thing they've been doing all along to us. And we jump up every time they do it like it's something new. It ain't nothing new. It's the same old, same old. And we should be tired of it. And people here today are asking, well, what are we going to do about it? And you think, well, we're going to have another. No, we're not going to have another demonstration. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. We're going to get organized.
So that is Rafiki Morris, member of the All African People's Revolutionary Party and Black Alliance for Peace, telling the truth. That video is about 13 minutes long, and you can find that video also on the Black Alliance for Peace Twitter page, as well as on the Black Alliance for Peace Facebook page, Black Alliance for Peace on Facebook. So we did that. That was great. And I got to tell you, honestly, as much as I know I work with Sean Blackmon every day, Sean the Voice Blackmon. I work with him every day. But I gotta be honest, I never tire of hearing that brother speak that radical shit. So take a listen to this. I want to share some of Sean's words at the No War with Russia rally. And this video, it was actually captured by our comrade Chuck Modiano, and it's on his Twitter page, which you can find at Chuck Modi #1 at Chuck Modi #1 on Twitter. Give this a listen.
No war with Russia. No war with Russia. $700 billion plus. That's the so-called defense budget for the United States. While children go hungry, while people are homeless, while we continue to be ravaged by this pandemic in the wealthiest nation in the history of nations because we were abandoned by this government. First under Trump, now under Joe Biden, who's delivered one broken promise after another to poor working and oppressed people in this country. All they have for us is disappointment. All they have for us is a whole lot of nothing. Meanwhile, the war chest overflows.
So that's just a portion of his words at the rally, and you had to be there to hear all of the great anti-imperialist radical speakers. This is, the stuff we talk about every day, but when we do go out and activate, demonstrate, participate in direct action against the empire, we just keep saying what we've been saying, and we're wondering. I know it was cold that day. It was cold that day, but honestly, man, all these people who talking about they don't want war, I wonder where they were. So we have got to be serious about participating, about direct action, and participating in direct action, and actually living out every opportunity we can what we say we believe. So of course, I got to plug my day job, because I really am fortunate enough. I am fortunate, I tell you, to get paid to do this for my day job. So Sean and I are on By Any Means Necessary on Radio Sputnik, which airs at 2 p.m. Eastern Time every weekday from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can listen live. I'm going to share this with you so that you can see what you have to do. You can listen live on SputnikNews.com. This is the website. This is what it looks like. At 2 p.m. Eastern Time, you can go to this website, click on this little antenna right here, and listen to our show live from 2 to 4 p.m. If you want to listen to our previous shows, you can go down. Woo, man, they put stuff way down here, and they post the day's show, the previous day's show down here. Our show will show up a little bit later or you can go up here and search by any means necessary. It helps if you spell it right. Searchy. And our show will come up. Our last show, this is our last show from yesterday. It'll come up and you can listen. So you can do that on SputnikNews.com. You can also, let's see, you can also, if you live in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, you can tune into us from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. Listen to us on the radio at 105.5 FM and 1390 AM. And if you're in Kansas City, you can also hear us on 104.7 and I think 2 other radio stations that I don't remember right now. And this is actually pretty interesting because there's actually a pretty salacious article about the Kansas City station picking us up in the New York Times. And so I want to share that with you because it was really interesting when it happened. I had just started working for Sputnik like in 2019, December in 2019. So Sputnik expands to Kansas City, and the New York Times ran this wild article about Russian propaganda in Kansas City. And they made a big deal to talk about how Sputnik Radio is owned by the Russian government and it's a mouthpiece for the Kremlin, and Mr. Putin is airing his propaganda on radio in Kansas City. And the interesting thing about this is, let me scroll down, excuse me, how they point out that her station shares a frequency. This lady is a jazz historian, I think, in Kansas City, and she is on KOJH. Her station shares a bandwidth with the station that is airing Sputnik right now. And they interviewed her and they made sure to put, the face of this Black woman on, this article. And, she's talking about what was supposed to be a historic jazz station. And it's true, the station, now the show Sputnik now replaced like the jazz show that was on this station. And she said, oh, now it's broadcasting Alex Jones and Sputnik. And the interesting thing is that unfortunately, too often we don't support the outlets where our people are broadcasting information for our community. And this is something that Ms. Dixon said, that she alluded to, that, she was upset that that Russia had gained space on the radio dial on the same frequency that she envisioned as a beacon for the Black community that had sent soldiers to die defending American values like free speech. Well, here's the thing. We're in America. We're in the United Snakes of America. So why can't we have free speech too, right? I mean, it's a weird contradiction of her of values, if you want to call them that, with her complaint. Like, she's like, oh, Black people sent soldiers to defend American values for free speech, but she's complaining that folks in Washington, D.C. who work for Sputnik are now broadcasting in St. Louis. It's just really messed up how Black folks were used against each other in this New York Times piece and others. And then she was asked how Russia managed to interfere in U.S. elections. I don't know how many times we have debunked this bullshit lie on By Any Means Necessary and on this show and all over the place. But this is one of those folks, one of those Black folks that they prop up to give validity, give credence to this lie that Russia influenced the election in the United States, because the Democratic Party doesn't ever want to admit that Hillary Clinton just lost to a shitty candidate that she never should have lost to in the first place. So they crafted this Russian interference lie to cover for the fact that Clinton ran a shitty campaign and the loss was her fault, because she took voters, mostly Black voters, but everybody else, for granted. So she didn't campaign like she should have. So they came up with this Russiagate thing, and Black people didn't vote for Clinton because of Russia, to cover for Hillary Clinton. And she, people like Anita Dixon in St. Louis are trotted out to give legitimacy to that lie, where she says, how Russia managed to interfere in the US elections because they get free airwaves and it's called propaganda. I mean, first of all, Russia actually pays for airtime that they get anywhere in the United States, just like US corporations pay those 6 US corporations that own every single media outlet in this country now. All media outlets in this country, whether it is print, whether it is periodicals, whether it is television or cable news. And by television and cable, by television, I do mean like local affiliates. All of those corporations, all those media outlets are owned by 6 corporations in the country. 6. Used to be 9, but now it's just 6. And all of those corporations are very, very politically inclined, whether it's politically inclined toward the liberal wing of the political establishment, the capitalist, imperialist, classist political establishment in this country, or the conservative wing of the capitalist, classist political establishment in this country. I should keep including white supremacist in that description, because that's what this political establishment also is and always has been. So it's wild that Anita Dixon's criticism of Sputnik being aired on a radio station in St. Louis is because they get free airwaves, when actually Sputnik is like $300,000 per hour for airtime in St. Louis. I don't know what it is in DC, but it's a pretty good penny. But she says nothing, and the New York Times says nothing about the 6 corporations that own every single media outlet in this country. So nobody gets free airtime on CNN and MSNBC and at the New York Times. None of that is free airtime that's paid for by either these liberal or conservative, white supremacist, imperialist, capitalist, patriarchal minded entities. Get the heck out of here. So it was just interesting that in 2002, here it is, the fee is 3 years. I'm sorry, let me correct myself. In Kansas City, the fee is $324,000 for 3 years for the contract, or $49.27 per hour. So, and then there's this whole foreign agent bullshit that they made such a big deal about. And again, this is where those 6 corporations come in. Okay, so Russia pays for all of this for Sputnik, but 6 US corporations pay for every media outlet in the US. Why are CNN and the MSNBC and Fox News and Newsmax and PBS and NPR, why are they not labeled US sponsored state media, but Sputnik and RT and China Global News, and why are they required to be registered as foreign agents and labeled as Russia state-sponsored outlet or Chinese state sponsored outlet. That's anyway. So here's the other thing with the way the whole Sputnik thing has been, the way it was reported, because what a lot of people did, when they reported on the expansion of Sputnik into one market, into St. Louis, was that they interviewed people like this dude, Lee Stranahan. And yes, Stranahan used to be the host of Fault Lines, which is it's a right-leaning show on Sputnik, airs in the morning, but he's not the host anymore. He was at the time. But it was interesting that people who reported this, like the New York Times, and not just the New York Times, but also corporate outlets like CBS News, focused solely on Lee Stranahan. This right-wing white guy became the face of Sputnik News in St. Louis. And nobody really talked about the other shows on the network that were not right-wing, that might not be as radical as By Any Means Necessary. Some of them definitely not as radical as me and Sean, but definitely not right-wing, and definitely not all white men. Nobody mentioned those shows in these articles. Just, this dude, this guy right here. I think this article in CBS News, they also quote Anita Dixon here, organizer in Kansas City. I think they also, she said, is bored, straddle the fence, treasonous. That's what this is to me. Wow. I think one of these pieces did point out that the programming at Sputnik runs the gamut from, far right to left, or, something like this. But it was really interesting that everybody went and talked to, this Black lady, Anita Dixon, to have her smear Sputnik as Russian propaganda, as treasonous, and they used the face of the right-wing white guy with his show on the network, and they never put up a picture of me, Sean, never put up a picture of Dr. Wilmer Leon. Nope. No. So, if you really want to see what's going on Radio Sputnik, on By Any Means Necessary on Radio Sputnik, you can actually see me and Sean, see us in living radical color from 3 to 4 p.m. On YouTube at BAM Necessary. Look for BAM space Necessary on YouTube. And I wonder if Miss Dixon has actually listened to By Any Means Necessary on Radio Sputnik by now. I hope she has, and I hope that she has a different perspective about the information that is provided on the network. And look, I don't agree with everything that's broadcast on Sputnik, but I know what we do on our show. So I hope that she and other folks who had such a such a visceral reaction to the Russians being broadcast on their radio station in St. Louis, I hope they, change their mind, because, Sean and I are about that work. And make no mistake, folks, I love what I do, right? I love this work, and this work is for our people. For me, it's for our people, it's for Black people, it's for working class and poor Black people, it's for the Black masses, it's for the Black proletariat, and then it's also for all working class, poor, and oppressed and marginalized people. I love this work. This is not just like a gig for me, right? Like I said, I am I am incredibly fortunate to do this work, to get paid to do this work. But I would do it anyway. I was doing it anyway, just not as much of it. But I love this struggle because I want so much better for us, which is a part of the reason why when you see me on the Remix Morning Show here on Black Power Media on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday during the week, starting at 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., so sorry. And I'm talking this serious shit, I do get annoyed by some frivolous comments. And I mean, look, I'm not one of those people who thinks that I'm right all the time. I just corrected myself. Well, okay, maybe in my mind I am, but I am enough of an adult to accept correction and genuine principled criticism when I'm wrong. But I'll like see comments when I'm on the show in the morning, and I'll see comments from folks in the chat that are just wild, and I try to ignore them, but I can't because I'm petty. I mean, I'm petty and I'm serious about this work, right? So I've learned to not respond to all of them all the time. I'm getting better at it, but sometimes not. Sometimes I can't. And you know what? I'm actually not apologizing for nothing because I do take this work very, very seriously, right? So this isn't like a hobby or a way for me to make a little extra Patreon money. I appreciate the support that you all have provided through Patreon, and I really appreciate the support that you all have provided through Black Power Media. But this money goes back into the work. This money goes into the equipment, the lights. I'm upgrading to a Mac Mini so I can take the Mac with me all over the place. It goes back into the work. It goes to giving money to GoFundMe's to people who need it. Money goes back into the work. So I mean, I think that's what kind of annoys, I'm not doing this to like grow an audience. I'm not doing this for clicks and to talk about the latest controversies, just to talk about them for clicks and likes and shit like that. And I think that's what like annoys me because I see people kind of showing up just to throw comments out about how we're doing our shit. Like, okay, thanks for the criticism, but I swear, man, if you don't like what we're saying right now, come back in 10 minutes. Maybe we'll be on something that you want to hear. And I don't know. If you don't agree with what I have to say on my show, go find something else to watch. That's cool. Like, unless your critique is legitimate and respectful and about what we are talking about, and you're not on some weird QAnon type of foolishness. Oh man, out of respect for the work, or maybe I just need to ignore the comments altogether. But then, like, if I ignore the comments, then I also ignore the actual helpful and thoughtful and informative ones, because I learn from people too, y'all. So, like, there's the rub. Now, I just wanted to, throw that out. Like, for example, okay, some people's comments about how we shouldn't care about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia, they really just, they just blow my mind, because, and we, meaning, Black people, because, we have to, I don't get how people say things like, we have to take care of home first, and Russia ain't never done nothing for Black people, so why are we defending them? And I don't, the one that always triggers me the most is like, this is why we need to get on code, and you know why. But here's the thing. What happens around the world is directly connected to what happens or does not happen here, especially to Black folks, poor, working class, marginalized folks, the masses, the proletariat. And that is part of the Black radical tradition, understanding and connecting the struggle against domestic capitalism and against imperialism internationally, and realizing that it's all connected for Black people, and indeed for the working class, poor, and oppressed people around the world. It's all connected. These things are not disconnected. And here's why. Here comes some more sharing. The defense budget for the United States, that's just for the Department of Defense through the National Defense Authorization Act. The nuclear the budget for the nuclear arsenal falls under the Department of Energy, and that's a whole different bunch of money. But just for the NDAA, just for the Department of Defense, the defense budget this year is $778 billion with a B. What does that mean in terms of what money is spent, or how much money is spent on what in this country? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. This is information from the Peter G. Peterson Foundation. Now, this source, it can be kind of liberalish, right? Their infographics, though, are pretty good. So the basic data is good, but some of their policy solutions, like policymakers can ensure that our military is strong and that we are prepared to defend our nation from threats while also avoiding potential waste of pressure. That's some, liberal bullshit that, okay, no. But what I do want to show you is their information about U.S. defense spending. So they have this report. You can get this report in PDF, and this is the website, pgpf.org. You can download this little report, and they said that defense spending accounts for 11% of all spending. And then if you go down a little bit further, then they say, and is the single largest category of discretionary spending. There is a little simple column chart. Defense at the top, and then under that comes health, and then under that comes transportation, and so much for respecting our troops, because there's veterans benefits and services, community and regional development. Oh, I have to expand this a little bit so you can see how terrible this is. Community and regional development, education is way down here. Administration of justice, international affairs, that's on the books. There's a whole black budget that the CIA and the other alphabet agencies have that they don't report to nobody. General government spending, all this in natural resource and environment, housing assistance, all the way down here, general science, space and technology, and training, employment, and social services. All the defense is the biggest, spend the most money on defense. Then they show that the U.S. spends more on defense than the next 11 countries combined. This is the 2020 defense spending. This was from last year, $778 billion. And I think this was just when the NDAA was passed. Now I have to zoom out here a little bit because that was just too big. You couldn't see the whole chart. There you go. $778 billion is what the U.S. spends on defense, and that is more than all of these countries combined spend on defense. Now, China is interesting because China has like 1 billion people in it. The population of the United States is 338 million, give or take. The population of China is like 1 billion people and some more. And they don't spend anywhere near as much as the United States spends on defense. But China is supposedly the great enemy of the country that spends more than all of these 11 countries on defense combined. India, Russia. Look, this administration has been claiming that Russia is about to invade Ukraine and the US and NATO have to go to war with Russia, but Russia doesn't even spend as much on defense as India or China. Explain how Russia is such a threat to the US when the US, Come on, are y'all serious? Do you see the problem? And they go on to say that the U.S. has historically devoted a larger share of its economy to defense than many of its key allies. And that's the U.S. line there. And yes, the percent of GDP spending has gone down over the years. But look at that little blue line up there. It's creeping back up. And it was always, except for this one little part right here, and what is that, 1976, 77? But percent of GDP spending for defense has always been higher than every other country that is a quote unquote US ally. Always. They do talk about the GDP declining further, but that doesn't make any difference when we're here in 2020, when the percent of defense spending, the percent of the GDP of defense spending is going back up, and when the United States still spends $778 billion, more than 11 whole countries combined. So let me ask y'all, how do you think that impacts what we get in this country? And if you're not clear about how that impacts what we get in this country, let's be clear on this. There has been bipartisan support. Bipartisan meaning both parties are cool with it. They don't have a problem with it. They ain't fighting over it. Bipartisan support to impose sanctions on Russia. They're called the mother of all sanctions. Remember when Trump called that big bomb the mother of all bombs? Now these people, Republicans and Democrats, are calling this next sanction bill against Russia the mother of all sanctions. There's no argument about that. But there's all this hemming and hawing and arguing about legislation for you and me, for the things that we need. There's no argument between the Democrats and the Republicans about sending weapons to Ukraine. They even have a picture down here of the missiles that they're sending. Bipartisan agreement. Republicans and Democrats ain't fighting over this. Manchin, Sinema, they ain't fighting over this. They ain't mad about it. No argument between the two parties about that. And despite what people like to believe, I don't know where people get this idea that the Biden administration is not planning to send troops to Europe for a potential physical hot confrontation with Russia, but yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's planning to reposition 1,000 soldiers that are already in Germany to Romania, and he is deploying 2,000 troops in the U.S. to Poland and Germany. A lot of those troops are actually coming from, I learned from Newport News, a U.S. Navy SEAL and crap like this. That's 3,000 for now that they're publicly telling. But look, 8,500 troops on high alert. Nobody's complaining about that. Nobody in Congress. You don't have Manchin. You don't have Sinema. You don't even have the Progressive Caucus saying that we don't need to be doing any of this. We don't need to be sending arms to the Ukraine. We don't need to be sending troops to Poland. We don't need to be sanctioning Russia. There's no argument between the Republicans and Democrats about that. So they're doing all this, and this is costing money, and they are allocating money, and they are spending money hand over fist, like it's literally growing on trees, like they actually print it. And you don't think this doesn't impact you? Where do you think all that healthcare money is going? Like, why does the Department of Defense and the Department of Energy gets hundreds of billions of trillions of dollars every year for war, but we're supposed to settle for $1.2 trillion over 10 years for infrastructure? That was the final amount of the infrastructure bill. We're supposed to settle for $1.7 trillion over 10 years for the alleged Build Back Better bill that was pared down from nearly $6 trillion, but that was still over 10 years. They spending this money every year, and this extra money that they're spending for the weapons that's on the fly. That's ad hoc. Doesn't it matter to you why we can't get $1 trillion a year for social spending, healthcare, education, our needs, but the military and the nuclear program can get it every single year without asking for it? They sure don't have to beg for it like we do. And these politicians are always talking about fraud and waste, but the Department of Defense has never passed an audit of their finances. They lost more money than I and they can keep up with. And these folks that I see in the comments say stuff like Russia ain't doing nothing for Black people, so we don't have to pay attention to that. I don't even have time to go into the whole history of Russia involving in the liberation of African movements, the African liberation movements and the Cuban liberation. But if you know anything about Paul Robeson, Harry Haywood, hell, Langston Hughes, Claudia Jones, you know that comment ain't true. But so many of us don't like history. I mean, like, honestly, would Angola have been able to defeat the apartheid South African army without Russia's help? Hell no. I think they would have had a very difficult time doing that. You know why? Because the U.S. backed the South African apartheid army. That's why. So, but just in case people are saying that this was in the past, you know, Russia did all that stuff in the past, what have they done for Black people now? And this was wild because I did not know this at all. Did you know that there is in Russia today, to this very day, just learned this. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. That there is something called the RUDN University in Moscow. And this university was founded on February 5th, 1960 by the Russian government. But on February 22nd, 1961, they named the university after who? Patrice Lumumba. Because he is one of the greatest symbols of the African people's fight for independence. Now, they've renamed it, RUDN University still, but the history is right on their website, It's now called People's Friendship University of Russia, which, they're cool, but they still pay homage to Patrice Lumumba and the struggle for African people's independence. And look at what they do here. Students and academics are free to pursue their learning, teaching, and research activities without being subject to political context, but firmly directed in the grand principles of friendship and mutual support. I encourage you to go to this website and check this university out. eng.rudn.ru and check this history out, because I really want to know where is anything like that in this country for our Black revolutionaries? Is there a Fred Hampton School or an Asada Shakur University or a Sundiata Akoli Friendship Academy? Welcome to students from all over the world who want to learn about geopolitics and struggle and liberation without state indoctrination? No, there is not. No, it ain't. In fact, this country has either murdered or tried to murder those people and have held them as political prisoners and more like them to this day. And to be clear, I don't give a rat's ass about Vladimir Putin. And yeah, Russian mercenaries are doing some really shady shit in some oil-rich African regions. That's true. I do wonder if they are mercenaries for the Russian government or the Russian oligarchs. The oligarchs are different from the government. That's a different. But yes, there is a problem with this in some places on the continent. That's true. But the U.S. has an entire military command called AFRICOM that literally splits the continent in half, has hundreds of bases on the continent, carries out drone bombings, covert and overt military operations all over the continent, and that is definitely officially not only a part of the U.S. government, AFRICOM is, but is the very present expression of U.S. militarism on the African continent, U.S. imperialism on the African continent. Any existence of non-aligned countries like Russia or China on the continent, I think, have to be critiqued on the basis of the geopolitical reality that the reason the U.S. is so heavily entrenched in Africa is because, yes, it wants to continue to control the resources of the continent, but it also wants to use Africa as a strategic counter to Russia and China. Is any foreign entity in Africa because of their kindness toward Africans? I have no illusions about this. I have no illusions that that's true. But what I do know, what I do absolutely believe is that Russia and China are not approaching their relationship or involvement in Africa from an imperialist, militarist, neo-colonial perspective, where they must control everything and leave Africans with nothing. But the U.S. and its allies, that's what they're doing. Its allies, remember the former colonial powers of Africa, the France and Germany and the UK and all that. Yeah, they absolutely do. So is Russia perfect? Nope, no. But I also have much, much less of a beef with Russia than I do with this imperialist, lying shithole, the United States, and all of its leaders and all of its former colonial, neo-colonial allies. Russia isn't keeping us from healthcare or housing or education and a decent quality of life. And Russia is not waging war with other countries, overthrowing their leaders and governments. This government is, with their warmongering and hatred of Russia and China and Cuba and Venezuela and Nicaragua and Honduras and Peru and Haiti, any country that doesn't go along with the American imperialist way. So no, Russia is not trying to invade Ukraine. The US and NATO is pushing that lie. Russia is defending itself against Western imperialist aggression, and this shit matters to us because our tax dollars and money that the government prints, or however you believe that money is generated in this country, that money should go to promoting a higher standard of a quality of life for us, rather than going to stoking a war with Russia and continuing imperialist aggression all over the world. That's why Ukraine and Russia matter to us, or should, although I know it don't matter to some people. And yes, there are bigger issues than, folks like Joe Rogan. And the ones I just talked about, absolutely that. But once again, like this whole thing with him kind of shows how progressives still can't deal with racism and homophobia, and that continues to be a problem. Because, I'm never going to advocate for anybody to be removed or silenced or censored from saying whatever dumb shit they want to say. I'm just going to point out how their words are so eagerly lapped up by millions of people in this country. And folks on the left confuse opposing censorship with defending these assholes. But let's be clear, Rogan is not being canceled or censored. I don't have to listen to bigoted white dude bros if I don't want to. And people don't have to defend bigoted dude bros from suffering the consequences of their exercising free speech in the free market if people decide to unsubscribe from a service that hosts their bigoted dude bro trash. That's how the free market was supposed to work, right? And no, Rogan is absolutely not as important as anything else going on. But my beef really is like with the white progressives defending this dude without any critique or condemnation of his history of racist, homophobic comments. And they also don't want to say anything about him giving hours of time to pieces of crap bigots like Gavin McInnes and Jordan Peterson. And a lot of these folks defend this man saying things like, well, oh, if you don't listen to him, you can't cancel him. But again, Rogan isn't being canceled. And honestly, I don't need to hear 87 racist or homophobic comments from one person and listen to their podcast for 3 hours to know that they ain't shit after the first time they say racist and homophobic garbage. Spotify can do what it wants with its platform. Rogan can say and interview whoever the hell he wants, and I can call out his racist and bigoted comments in the free market because words have consequences. You can say them, but they have consequences. And if the consequences of his words are that people are offended by them and decide not to associate with him or the outlet that hosts his show, then people can do that too. But it is wild to me how progressives are more concerned with defending Rogan's right to say racist, homophobic shit, while claiming that he's being threatened with being canceled, which again, he is not, than they are with calling out the racism and the bigotry he is well known for and has been for a long time. That's why we black radicals don't trust these so-called white progressives, man. They ain't for us. They are not. And then there's Dave Chappelle, who spoke with a bunch of people against a planned housing development that included zoning for affordable housing in Yellow Springs, Ohio, where he lives. And look, that video is absolutely true. He was there speaking with a group of people as a part of a group of people who were opposed to the developer's plan to include zoning for affordable housing in their project for, the housing project in Yellow Springs. But I've learned since in an interview we did earlier today on By Any Means Necessary with a Yellow Springs journalist that you can hear on SputnikNews.com or Spreaker and iTunes, that even though the developer zoned about 1.75 acres of land for affordable housing, they never intended to build the affordable housing units. What they planned to do was to donate that land back to the city of Yellow Springs. Now, question is, why did the developer plan to build the units? Apparently, because in the past, the city council has repeatedly voted against other plans that the developer had for including affordable housing units in their project. So it seems kind of like this time the developer was like, okay, you know what? Fine. We'll include the zoning of this land in our plans for affordable housing to be built on this land, but we're not going to include plans to actually build the housing because y'all never approved any of the other plans we had to do that. So we're going to give this land back to you, Yellow Springs, and you can build the housing or contract someone else to do it. That's fine. Is this right or wrong? I don't know. Couldn't say. Those just seem to be the details and part of the history with this developer and the city council. So then the question for me becomes, why didn't the city council just approve the plan, take back the land that the developer was going to give back to the city, and contract somebody else to build the affordable housing? Can't tell you that either. I mean, that would make sense to me, right? But I'm not a resident of Yellow Springs. I'm not a member of the city council. I'm not a developer. It doesn't make sense to me, though. It really doesn't. So then, of course, the question I think we all want to ask is, why did Dave Chappelle threaten to yank his money if the plan that included the zoned affordable housing went ahead as it was? And then ultimately people voted against going ahead with the plan. So there is now there is no housing development and there is no affordable housing plan at all, right? I have no idea why he did that. Seems weird. Some say that he was opposed to the plan from the developers because it wasn't sufficient and that he was demanding a better plan. Some say that the affordable housing wouldn't have been really affordable for the people who live in Yellow Springs who still make minimum wage in many of the businesses, although Chappelle has, poured money into the town with his shows and stuff. Some folks had environmental concerns and said that the issue wasn't fleshed out enough. I mean, okay, if all of those are issues that are legitimate, and I mean, they're the reasons that Chappelle made his comments, but I'm just like, why not just say that, right? Because that's not at all how what he said on that video sounded or looked like to me. Still, to be honest, after going back and looking, I still feel the same way about it. Like, why make his statement about him auditioning for the city council if his issue was about all these other things, right? He made it about him and his money, and that's where my problem still lies. Because look, I'm not in the dude's mind, thank God, but I feel like Dave Chappelle should have been more clear in why he was opposed to the developers' plans, rather than seeming to grandstand like a rich guy having a tantrum, threatening to take his money away if he doesn't get his way. I mean, if I have to be clear about what I say so that I don't misrepresent Black Power media, so that I don't misrepresent by any means necessary, so that I don't misrepresent the Black Alliance for Peace, so that I don't misrepresent my church, Plymouth Congregational United Church of Christ, if I have to be clear on what I say, then I think the least we can demand from someone who actually has a material impact on working class and poor people's lives, I think the least we can demand from Dave Chappelle is that he be clear in what he says. Because what I do know for sure is that now that the developer's plan has been vetoed, there is now no plan for affordable housing in Yellow Springs at all. Will a better plan come out of this? I don't know. I hope so. But I think that the people who would have been the most impacted by this deserved to know whose side Chappelle and his money are really on. So that's my thoughts on that. So also, folks, I want to invite you to a special movie night on Black Power Media tomorrow night. That's right, we're doing it again. Saturday, February 12th, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, where I hope we're going to have a discussion at 6, and then a screening of the documentary, Dope is Death, about Dr. Mutulu Shakur and the Black Panther Party and the Young Lords opening the first acupuncture detoxification clinic in Lincoln Hospital in the 1970s. So as you know, this topic is important to me. And I think it's gravely important to our people today. So I see this as my responsibility to be honest and involved in educating and organizing around this issue, sharing what I know, sharing my experiences for all of our lives, and as a part of my commitment to the work to free all political prisoners. Because this is happening because this is the 36th anniversary of Dr. Mutulu Shakur's incarceration. So what we're doing is joining the Malcolm X grassroots movement and the Free Mutulu Now campaign, hashtag Free Mutulu Now, for their Black Love in Action for Dr. Mutulu Shakur weekend that they have organized, and they are the ones organizing the screening of this documentary, and we're going to share it on Black Power Media here as they screen it. So from tonight, so Friday tonight, February 11th at 7 p.m. So their kickoff will be going on when this show airs. To Monday, February 14th, all through this weekend, we are all calling on everybody who believes in justice and human rights to join us in extending revolutionary love to Dr. Mutulu Shakur and demanding his immediate release. So it's in that spirit that we're presenting this special screening and a discussion on tomorrow, February 12th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, with the screening of the documentary at 7 o'clock p.m. So I hope you'll be able to join us for that. I don't know who is going to be able to participate in the discussion with me tomorrow at 6. And it might be just where you can ask me anything you want and I'll do my best to answer. But I want us to come together and participate in this. And I'm very glad that Black Power Media is able to give us the platform to do it. All right, so next week, y'all, is Blackonomically Speaking with economist Dr. Linwood Tauheed. And I'm planning a segment for the week after on the struggle against imperialism in the church, the same way we struggle against imperialism in the streets. So look out for that. In a weird way, all of these issues that I hit on tonight are connected, I think, in that we Black radicals have to be clear on what our struggle is and against what and whom. And we have to be equally clear about who our comrades are in this struggle and who our comrades are not. We give no celebrity a pass because they sometimes say or do nice things for the poors, but are generally, shitty in other areas like classism. We do not ignore the impact of U.S. policy on working class and poor people around the world because we keep electing the politicians who push and pay for those policies, or we ignore those policies altogether as if only our liberation in this domestic colony matters, while we work and have to continue to beg for healthcare and housing while the fruit of our labor pays for bombs and entrenched poverty around the world. Amilcar Cabral said in his 1965 PAIGC party directive, PAIGC is the African Party for Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde. He said, "We must practice revolutionary democracy in every aspect of our party life. Every responsible member must have the courage of his responsibilities, exacting from others a proper respect for his work and properly respecting the work of others. Hide nothing from the masses of our people. Tell no lies. Expose lies whenever they are told. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures. Claim no easy victories." This is found in his book, Revolution in Guinea, Stage 1. And this is just one part of the first stage of our revolution. And we can't even seem to get this straight. So how in the world are we going to advance to stage 2? So those are my thoughts for tonight. I hope I see you tomorrow night at 6. I hope all the technology goes well and everything goes off without a hitch. And we all get to watch Dope is Death at 7 p.m. with the Malcolm X grassroots movement and the Free Mutulu Shakur campaign. Thank you all for watching. A luta continua, Victoria, asserta, peace, if you're willing to fight for it. And they are out here throwing up the peace sign like they won something. Yep. I don't understand what they think they want.
I need to revise. I did see white people this happy. I gave the example of America and the Allies' defeat over Nazi Germany. But I haven't seen this many white people happy. There was a couple periods in history. One was when Nutella was introduced. And I haven't seen that many white people happy since Nutella was introduced and marketed and stuff. Because white people love Nutella.
They booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement. Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify. And name the best from my region, you gotta utter mine. Think of who really putting on, you never come to mind. Rapping like your Spotify, tap you rappers compromise. Yeah, no need to panic, just paint the canvas. If you can feel the static, you're too close, find your balance. Embed the revolution for their prohibition bandwidth. Blood trickle from the leaves he was planting. had them all line before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all line before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. Boarded that flight to Amsterdam. When my accountant and minus my family found out too and didn't like it. You're not in this alone. What Dale said and I thought he was biased. Then I got a Venmo that said copy the finest. Before my foolishness settled in, recorded a whole tape before we got to Berlin. This close to giving up and now never again. Don't overlook the work and come expecting to win. In the end, my word, never put nothing over the squad. Got it right up under their nose and try the facade. Off the cliff with broken wings, I'm aware of the odds. Enough faith for us all, I'm the one for the job. Most days, catching sun rays, baby, look like the front page. Overthinking what they might say, have it your way. Yeah, the biggest threat is something they never seen. Dial it up, patch me into the screen. I had them all line before I dial up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up. I had them all line before I dial up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up.